thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be doing the first in a three-part colour along today. I'm going to be doing a colour along from this Wish You Were Here, Creative Haven, Teresa Goodrich. And I'm going to be doing this lovely image of the lighthouse for no other reason other than that I actually really like it. So it would be great if any of you felt like joining me. I'm going to be doing a first layer of watercolor, and then I'll be doing detailing in color pencil on top. So I thought of trying to get a kind of a reddish orangish sky, and then with the clouds. And I will be using different watercolor paints, but mostly my Daniel Smith. And for the sky, I'm going to be using this quinacridone gold, which I'll put in, and possibly using some quinacridone pink to mix with it. I've got these are Daniel Smith paints that came in a tube, and I've decanted them into this little palette of mine. And I'll be mixing the colors up probably on my saucepan. Sorry, I've been cooking on my saucer side plate. There are some colors there from something else I was doing, but I'm just going to be using this as a palette to mix little bits. So I will just get them activated a little bit, and I'm going to be following the method more or less that Sandy from Color Creatively uses, in that I'll be using a water brush. So I have my little sheet of kitchen paper, kitchen towel. I have a rough sheet of paper here to just scribble my water brush clean, and I have a baby wipe to dampen and clean my brush as well. So I'm going to use probably the smaller one just till I get going. It's a little bit damp here, and I'm going to try this color. I think I should try this on some rough paper first to see. And I want this to be, let me see what it looks like. Shall we see what color it looks like? Oh, I forgot to switch this light on. So that's too dark. So I need to add just a little bit of water. I have some water in my pipette. I'm just going to dilute that a little bit. It's maybe more the sort of yellowy sky I wanted. Maybe dilute it just a fraction more even. Maybe need more water in my pipette. Yes, I have a jar of water here, just in case I need to clean my brush off in it as well. So just a little bit there. Gonna try that. And I don't want this to be too damp. I think that's fine. So without further ado, let me see how we go with that. I hope that you can see. There we are on screen. I'm wondering if I should be using the slightly bigger water brush, or if this will be okay. I'm worried about going out the lines with the bigger one. So I'm going to try this and just see how we do. I'm using quite a lot more water, I think, on this page than maybe I should, because it's not the thickest paper, but I have found that this Creative Haven paper actually seems to accept water like this. So I decided to try adding some of the Daniel Smith quinacridone pink, excuse me, to this gold color. I want it to be a kind of a pinky yellowy sky. I do love the quinacridone gold. I think it's such a lovely color, and I've ended up coloring one of these clouds here. Gold. I get myself so muddled up between what is cloud and what is sky, so I just ignored it and decided to carry on. I had this idea of sort of pink fluffy clouds, and I thought I'll try doing a bit of pink in here. Now I'm not at all sure whether I've made the right decision or not, so I'll fix up anything that I'm unhappy with when it's all dried. I'll fix it all up with pencil, but it kind of gives me a nice base to go on. And I love the way that the watercolors fill in the tooth of the paper, so that you can just really, you can leave some of it as is and you can detail with pencils, but then your piece gets finished much more quickly, which is great. So now I'm adding a bit more quinacridone gold and making this maybe a little bit darker and mixing it with the rose, just to continue making sort of the way a sky looks. It's got little bits of this color and little bits of that color. I have found, since I've been coloring and painting, that I notice colors and I notice skies so much more than I ever did before. I'm just cleaning my brush off both on the wet wipe and the paper, and now I want to use the red for the lighthouse, and I'm just spraying it, and that is actually the rose. I think I've used the wrong color. That's the pink, it's not the rose. I want Daniel Smith quinacridone red, so I'm mixing the red in now with that little bit of pink that I've got there. And it's made a nice, I've made this quite a thick consistency, so I want to do the red stripes of the lighthouse in this. And I love this color. I think it's, I don't really have a pencil that does this color, so I'm very pleased that I'm using these watercolors for this to get it's lovely deep. It's a real pillar box red. My mum always used to say, pillar box red. That's a real pillar box red. So I'm applying this and trying to be as tidy as I can. And not quite sure what that little white stripe above it should be, but I decided to just do them both red there and leave a little bit of white in between. So we're just going carefully around all the windows. I do wish I could paint and colour at the speed of when I speed a video up. It would make getting through the book so much easier and quicker. There's so many lovely things to colour, aren't there? I find it quite frustrating that it takes so long to do anything. I'm really struggling with my eyes just at the moment. I'm going to see the eye specialist tomorrow, so I really struggle to see a lot of things. I hope that he'll be able to help. I find doing watercolors easier with my eye issues. So carefully cleaning the red off, and it's a staining color, so it's quite difficult to get it clean. And now I want to use some of this Moon Glow. No, this is not Moon Glow, I'm so sorry. This is hematite that I've decided to use for the rocks, and I'm using it in a thick. I love hematite. I did a video the other day showing some of these Daniel Smith colours that are in this little white palette, and I'll put a link to that here, so if you haven't watched it, you can watch it. But hematite granulates, and so it will give a bit of texture as well to the rock. So I'm doing the bit that the artist has kind of put stripes and things on. I'm doing in the darker color, and then I will water the paint down a bit to do the rest of the rocks in that color, and just to give a feeling of dimension and a sort of 3D thing. When it's darker, it looks as if it's going down if the bit above is lighter. So we're going to do that. It's very relaxing painting, I must say. I quite like using water brushes, but I do find that they end up giving too much water, but I kind of enjoy them in my colouring books. I never use them if I'm doing an actual painting. Have any of you made any New Year resolutions or not? I didn't actually make any this year. I've kind of been working at things, but just carrying on much the same. So we're nearly finished with this darker issue, and then I'm going to go on to the lighter. I'm just going to water this exact same color down, and I've more or less run out of water in my brush, and I think I need to go and fill it up, and then I'll be back. So I filled the water up, and I've painted the rest of the rocks with this lighter color, and I painted the sea. I actually thought I was recording painting the sea, and unfortunately my phone didn't record properly, so I used a mixture of cobalt blue and cobalt teal in the water. Now I'm using a little bit of Daniel Smith Mayan dark blue. Just want to see what that looks like. I love scrap paper, you can do so much with it. Need this to be a little bit lighter. I think that should be okay. And I thought I wanted to just make the edges of the clouds this kind of color. I'm not sure if I've chosen the right color. What I would have liked to be able to do with this is to have this be watercolor paper that I could have then pulled the color up, but it isn't. Anyway, we'll carry on and see how we end up. Usually the pictures end up looking okay at the end, so I've reached the stage in my colouring that I just keep going until I make it look like something that I'm happy with. I don't give up very quickly. I think that's one of my character traits, and whether it's a good one or a bad one, who shall know, who can tell? So I'm just trying a little bit of water to see if the colour will move, but it doesn't. So I'm now going to try a little bit of, this is the Daniel Smith quinacridone pink, and I want to see if I can get a sort of a palish pink cloud. Not sure if it's going to work or not. Going to water it down. That's not pale enough yet. That's quite dark, but let's just see what happens. Get sort of pink fluffy clouds and streaks of clouds. I do see that in skies. It's quite magical actually when that happens. So we'll see. And I'm just going to put on another little piece of piano music that I was improvising with. Hope you enjoy it. It's just me muddling along on my piano. So now I'm going to start doing some of the trees, and I'm using a mixture of, this is now Winsor & Newton Hooker's Green Light and Winsor & Newton Hooker's Green Dark that I'm kind of mixing together and putting some extra water in. I'm going to see what I can do with the sky later on, maybe with pencils, or maybe I'll do some more painting on it later. I was feeling like I was making a mess and the paper was getting too wet, so I didn't want it to start actually pilling and breaking. So I decided this is a little bit too green, so I'm going to add just a tiny little bit of Mayan blue. It's Daniel Smith Mayan dark blue to that green to make it just a slightly more fir tree kind of color. And I'm just going to carry on and do that. I've just sped the video up a little bit because I do find that sometimes videos seem to take such a long time, and then I feel like a bit guilty that I'm making it too long. So I want this next tree to be a slightly different color, and I'm using a color I very seldom use, which is Winsor & Newton Emerald Green, which I've just added to that other mix. This is another thing I love about watercolors, is you can just sort of mix your colors and make something slightly different, which I really like doing. I don't think I'm going to put watercolor on the branches and things. I think I'm just going to do that in pencil or fine liner because that's easier. Now I'm adding some of the Serpentine green, Daniel Smith Serpentine green. It's not Serpentine Genuine, I think that's Serpentine green, I think, unless I just wrote the wrong name down. And I think I'm going to finish this video here, and I'll continue in the next video with some more of the watercoloring, and then I'll do the pencil work in the final video. I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I thank you very much for spending time with me, and I will see you in the next video, and I wish you a wonderful and colourful week, and say thank you very much for baby wipes. Thanks for watching. Goodbye now.